Learn Python for loops in 7 minutes. So the first way that we can do a for loop in Python is by looping through items or objects that exist inside of a list or an array. So here we have this list of names, names being Ben, Jose, Kevin, Shin, and Raj. And what we do in Python is we write for name in names, print name. And what this is going to do is it's going to look at each individual object within this list or string, and then it's going to print that, right? So here we have it. We have Ben, Jose, Kevin, Shin, Raj. Similarly, if we wanted to use something else besides name, we could do that. So if we wanted to do for I in names, print I, we could do that and get the same output. So whatever this first thing is, that's going to be our variable. Whatever this is going to be the thing that we want to iterate through. And then here we can put whatever content we want for the for loop. Now we're going to approach the second way to do a for loop in Python, which is to loop through list items by index. So here we have for I in range, length, names. So we're using the same list of names that we did before. And now what we're going to do is go through the range of the length of those names. So what is it exactly that we're doing? If we do length names, it's going to tell us that there's 5 names. If we do range length names, it's going to give us a range of basically 0 to 5. And the range of 0 to 5 is exclusive of this last number, meaning it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that's going to be the index of everything that we see in our list, because Python is 0 indexed, Ben is 0, Jose is 1, Kevin is 2, Shin is 3, and Raj is 4. So we're going to go through the list, and then we're going to say print the index I, because it's going to be a numerical value, since we're now looking at the range of the length of the list. And then we're going to say, what is the name? And we access name by doing names, and then we do the square brackets for I. And this is going to give us whatever value is indexed at that location in the list. So here we have it, index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, Ben, Jose, Kevin, Shin, Raj. And again, like in the previous example, this I is just a variable. You can use whatever variable you want. It could be I, J, it could be ABC, it could be name, although name would be kind of weird here since it's numerical value, but it can really be whatever you want. And now we're going to get into a third way that you can do loops in Python. This is doing looping in the list assignment. So here what we're going to do is we're going to do a for loop within a list, and we're going to assign that value to a list. So to show you what that looks like without assigning the value, we'll put it up here. And essentially it's more or less the same as what you'd expect to see up here, right? So we're saying, what is the output that we want? So it's kind of backwards, but what is the output that we want? And then what is the for loop? So it's for name in names. And then what we're going to put inside this list is person colon space name. So now we see that we have a new list, and it's going to be person Ben, person Jose, person Kevin, person Shin, person Raj. And when we assign it to people, now we have this list being what we just saw above. Now, similarly, we could do this with numbers. So here I've created a list of numbers 1 through 9, and there's better ways to do this in Python. This is just for an example. And now what we're going to do is using this for loop within a list, we're going to create this variable n squared, where n squared is going to equal x to the second power, right? So whenever you have this asterisk asterisk, that's going to be to the power. Number 2 is going to be second power. And again, here's the for loop. So it's x to the second power, and what is x? X is each value inside of numbers, because we're not doing the length range. We're just saying, give me that value directly from the list. Shift enter. Numbers is not defined, so I have to run numbers first. And then if we look at n squared, we see that we have squared every single number that we have in the list above. And now we're going to get into the last example, which is nested loops. And here, essentially what we're trying to do is look at the structure when we put a for loop inside of a for loop. So here we have 2 different lists. Lists are going to be names. So we have names, Ben, Jose, Kevin, Xavier, Raj for men. We have Ashley, Shin, Ria, and Destiny for women. And what we're going to try to do is find all the combinations of men and women that exist. And so we're going to do that with loops, and we're going to say for male and men. So it's going to go through each of these names. And then we're going to say for female and woman. So it's going to go through each of these names. Print the combination of male, female. So what we'll see is it'll go Ben, and it'll go Ben Ashley, Ben Shin, Ben Ria, Ben Destiny. Then it'll do the same thing with Jose, with Kevin, Xavier. And again, we need to initialize these. And then here we go. We see all the combinations of all the men with all of the women. And if we wanted to do this in inverse, we would just do for female and women at the top, and then the loop inside would be for male and men. Now, this is not the most ideal way to do this. There are other ways to find the combinations of two lists, or what we might allude to as being like combinatorics. But if we wanted to do this with for loops, this is how we would do it. And this might make more sense in the context of like tabular data, where you want to say go through the columns and then go through the rows, or go through the rows and then go through the columns. But again, this is just to say that you can embed loops within loops, which is to say that you can nest loops, and you can do this to, as many layers as your heart desires. If you want to have a 6-layer for loop, you can. Would it make sense to do that? Probably not too often. I think there's very few cases where that actually makes sense, but the structure is there. And this wraps up the video on for loops in Python.